So, talking about the law of one, you're going to hear a lot about this. Many people are now starting to get it, that the world can be saved, or at least some of the changes that are happening in the world can be reduced or dampened. The law of one is going to save us. In the beginning, there were two factions. The faction that was the children of the law of one, or the sons of the law of one, that were compassionate and cared about the people and the place we call the earth. The other faction were selfish, and they suffered aggrandizement, and they didn't care about anybody. They were just taking, reaping whatever they can. These were selfish souls. And in the early stages, long before Atlantis, there were these two factions at work. And this is the problem then, more than 10,500 years before Atlantis sunk, probably closer to 300,000 when we were there as a human race still on the earth. Only the animals were a little bigger. They didn't pay attention to any of those fences or those bonfires, and we had to live in those permanent prefabricated caves that we used to live in. But these two factions were at work. And they're at work today. Right now. We have people complaining about the Illuminati. They've always been here. Have you ever think there's not been people controlling the world 10,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 500 years ago? Of course they have been. And there are the rest of us who are trying to live our lives in peace. And there's the people in the middle trying to decide, which way do I go? Temptation takes you away from compassion and puts you into the other side. It's the dark side, the violent side. And the world has a consciousness. The planet has an aura. It's called the Aurora Borealis. This is a living place where we live in and we reside in. And every 100 years, all the people that you see will be gone. And the world continues on. Think about it. Every 100 years, no one's left that you see today. And yet the world continues and continues and continues with the same patterns, the same duality. All arches, all pillars represent duality. And you'll see it in all the secret societies, you'll see it in all the organizations, you'll see it in all the religions. A duality. To walk down the middle between these two extremes is to be spiritually enlightened. To choose to do good and to be compassionate is to help save the world. To do otherwise, you're just ganging up on the planet and you're destroying it. And the planet has a consciousness. The arteries in the planet are those veins of gold and silver that run through the crust. What have we been doing? The Hopi Indians came out a few years ago and complained, stop it. You're destroying the world. We are taking the veins out of the earth. 3 weeks ago, there was something on the internet, on the radio I heard, that NASA says there is a tension in the Earth's crust. A tension in the Earth's crust? When I was on the Richard Charette show some years ago, I predicted, one of the first I think, that the crust and the core were turning at different speeds. This means that the magma was going at a different speed or rate than the crust. And what do we know that means? Well, if you have a molten liquid mass and you have a peel or a crust on it and they're turning at different speeds, one time or another, it's going to flip. It's moving. What's causing the planet to be in the situation it is organically? The oceans are heating up. Scientists are complaining now. 1 degree is really bad. 2 degrees is disastrous, and the predictions now scientifically, long after I said these things, are 4 degrees. 4 degrees. No wonder, as I predicted 10 years ago, somebody reminded me of this yesterday, I said the farmers won't know when to plant their crops. A couple of weeks ago, you were outside with t-shirts and shorts, right?
Yeah.
Last night I had my winter coat on. And it was snowing. In Hamilton, anyway. It's an amazing time we live in, you know. For those people who like to live on the edge and they like excitement, this is the time. This is the time. Now again, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to give you a general background where I'm coming from. The planet is alive. It's rebelling. I don't like it. The economic chaos that's happened and is happening, I predicted in the 80s and the 90s. I made a lot of money in the late 70s and I retired to the farm up in Shelburne. Whoa, 28, 29 years old, the millionaire. Buy my little house, buy my little farm, have the animals, prepare for the hard times that are coming. I even had horses, had a dozen. Problems that I had no friends. You know what happens when you move up in seclusion someplace to protect yourself? You might as well step into jail. It's true.
Yeah.
So back to the city we go, in late 80s. We moved to Hamilton, and just a few years ago, we have this big center called Many Mansions Spiritual Center. It's the largest spiritual center in Canada. The square footage in the building is huge, and we've only been there a year or so. Everything was donated for my work to this center. The building was bought, the furnishings were there, the designer was there. $100,000 was spent on the furnishings. That's 10 times that. And it's an amazing place, and we're just opening up for business. But the amount of dark forces against us to try to hold us back, to delay us, enormous. Whenever you have light, you have darkness trying to hold it back. The planet wants to go ahead and create and be wonderful and live in peace. And humans, for as long as I can look back historically, have done nothing but undermine it. We have destroyed our planet. We know that the air is bad, we know the water's bad, but we haven't seen anything yet. I have seen the entire west coast disappear, including the jewel of the north, I was told, which means Alaska. When I was going to Spain, we saw Spain flooding around Barcelona, two great big lakes occurring there. We saw the North Shore in San Sebastian flooding. I had never been to Spain before. I didn't even know where Barcelona was, never mind that it had two huge rivers that when they would flood would make these lakes. The intuition keeps working. Yours too. You will have dreams of the future. You will have visions of the future, as I have. We can train you in Hamilton to use your intuition in a better, more productive way. And I'm not here to talk about that as a commercial basis, but we're there to set up the School of Noetic Sciences and Quantum Physics. We're going to prove what I do. We're going to prove what you do. I'm going to step aside and say, how many people can perceive the future here? We got 3. And me. Let me ask you the questions. Have you ever had a dream and that dream came true? Well, there's a few more. Have you ever had a feeling that something was going to happen and then that feeling came true? Have you ever just knew that something was going to happen and it happened?
Yes.
I think just everybody but this man in the yellow shirt had their hand up. I just asked you, can you perceive the future a moment ago, and only 3 people had their hands up in the back, and they're my associates. And yet after I asked you those questions, can you perceive the future, almost every one of you had your hand up. You can see what I see. You can see the future. Don't be afraid. The people who live in darkness and greed, these are the people who don't see the future because they don't think there's going to be one. They don't care if there's going to be one. They only care how much moolah they have in their pocket, how much food they got in their belly, and the size of their house, and who's working for them. And they'll live off the backs of poor people. Wealth made by poor people is what's going on right now. It's terrible. But the banks and the institutions and certain people have learned how to manipulate poor people. That's how they make wealth. You think about it, and you say, that can't be. How can poor people make money for rich people? But they do. Bank charges. Things going on with debts. people who don't know anything about money. These are the people who are the sons of Begal in the law of woman. These are the people that are selfish. The other people are trying to do things to be of service. They're trying to help the place. They're trying to bring a compassionate point of view to the world. Where am I going with this? Do you personally think you can change the world? Think about it. There's a saying that God always starts with a seed. It's in Scripture. Christ referred to himself as a seed. Other people have referred to themselves as seed. God always starts with one. One. And that one could be you. How you change the world? When I was at a stockholders meeting just a month ago, and the CEO and the people in their room were talking about spirituality, 11 times the term spiritual or spirituality was mentioned. I thought that was an accomplishment. These men are interested in money, and yet they're talking about the world being a better place because the CEO is a good man. He's not a crook. He has a royalty business where he's attempting to give royalties from his investment to the investors. That's how the world should be run. One man. And now he's going to meet up with a second man pretty soon, and they're going to change the industry as we know it. They already are, but when they unite, it's going to be bigger and better. You can be such a person. In that meeting, the CEO said, if you want to be a better person, if you want to change the world to the better, be a better person. Wow. I've heard that all my life. But it's true. In the readings we've done before, it often refers to God in our first book, The Secrets of Life, as being lightning or electricity. Not he, she, him or her, or it, but lightning or electricity. Thank you. You can't see it or perceive it. You can only see the results of electricity. The same with God. God Almighty. You can change the world because the readings have said, if the planet and the world is going in this direction, and one of us decides to change our ways, what happens? Well, by virtue of one of us changing, the whole thing has to change. It cannot be on the same course. If you're going in this direction and you change 1 degree, in time you're never going to end up where you were going in the first place. You have the power to change the outcome of the world, but you have to do it right now. You cannot wait. And we have to tell other people this important message. We cannot wait. Have you noticed recently the Madorfs and the other people who've had their hands in everybody's pocket are getting caught? Mm-hmm. Why? We are going through a place in space where the sensitivity, our intuitive, emotional, mental sensitivity has been heightened. Have you noticed recently where you felt bad in the morning, or you felt fear, or you felt depression? You're feeling other people's pain. I feel it a lot. When 9/11 came along, I felt fear in the morning in my throat. When 3/11 in Japan came along, I felt the same fear. I feel it now. When I put on my blog the other day that I had a message audible in my mind, mission in Cuba, oh my God, the fear came back. I thought something bad was going to happen to the Pope. Thank God nothing did. But something's going to happen in Cuba. We've been talking about the war in the Middle East, that there might be an atomic explosion there. When I made that reading and we did those predictions, the British pulled their ambassador people out of Iran. All the other countries pulled their people out of Iran. The Israeli minister's talking about dirty bombs that come in suitcases. Guess what? I'm not sure if it was referred to, if it was written in here, Doug will tell you better, but we talked about that in advance of that event. A lot of things I'm talking to you now are in the book. It's why it's selling so fast. People are reading it. I got to tell you, there was a politician, well, the daughter of a politician, military person, she called me up and she said, Douglas, you have done me a disservice. And I said, what? I'm trying to sell my house in Quebec. So, what's my book got to do with you selling your house? Well, you said in Mount St. Hilaire area, there's going to be volcanic activities, and I'm trying to sell my house, and I live in Mount St. Hilaire. And I said, well, we're talking about the area, aren't we? We're talking about the South Shore breaking off from the North Shore. And you know what? I'm not the first person. Edgar Casey talked about Niagara Falls running backwards. Bill Scullion has a map showing this much of the St. Lawrence opening up. We've talked about sharks in Lake Erie. How did they get there? Niagara Falls will run backwards. You know one of the beautiful things about living in Hamilton? I can go to lunch in Niagara Falls now. That's amazing. They have a nice little place. You look out, a big window, $8, you can have a sandwich, and you can watch the falls. And I keep sitting there going, oh my God, one of these days.
Going the other way.
Okay. You can change the world. That's my message. You can do it right now. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You will be in the right place at the right time. You will be safe. And for a few $100s, I can tell you if in the right place at the right time, if you want to make a consultation. This is the last year I'm doing deep trance readings, by the way. I'm officially quitting. I'm 62. Time to pass the torch. There are other people who are capable and they're coming along in their mid-30s or so. I'm willing to teach people to do what I do, and we have courses every year. As I said a moment ago, how many people can perceive the future? You're getting glimpses, you're seeing, you're feeling, you're knowing. You can see the future too. You can know where a safe place is. When I moved up to Shelburne, up to near Dundalk, the highest point in Ontario, and I thought this would be great for wind power generation, I went to Mississauga with my friend Ross Peterson, my mentor and teacher, the great and famous late Ross Peterson, and we looked at these, whatever they were, whippersnipper kind of windmills. I asked the man, is there any possibility of this egg beater windmill turning backwards? No, he said. Okay, what do I know? Well, they set up a test down in Nova Scotia, and they fired it up, and guess what happened? It went backwards and destroyed the thing. The gears weren't set up to go the other way. However, that was just an impression in the man's office. What did I know? But up there in Dundalk, there is now a huge windmill farm for as far as you can see. Just one concession over where I had my 50 acres. I was right. 30 years ago, I was right. Ross Peterson once told me, I have an inventive mind. And I can see the future, as I'm telling you. But remember, everything has its time and its place. What you try to invent too soon won't work. You can perceive the future and you can be prepared for the future. You can do this now. This book will prepare you. It tells you how to survive. It tells you where there are safe areas. It tells you how to combine your spiritual energy and become part of the law of one. It teaches you hope. If you look at this time as a renovation time. It uses the example, and then Doug will probably tell you a little more about this, at the end of the book. It says, when you see somebody renovating their house, you see the big dumpster on the front lawn, and what a mess. They're throwing out all kinds of junk. Plaster, boards, toilets, sinks, everything. But at one time, that was a cherished house, and all those things were new going into that house. Now they were worn out, and they were being discarded. And when the old was thrown out, it made room for the new. And later on, that house would be a beautiful dwelling. But going through that renovation period was pretty tough. I'm reminded to tell you that when I was in Spain, I found out that I speak Canadianese. That means I speak backwards. You know what I mean? You like my sweater? not so bad. Try interpreting that in Spanish. Not so bad? Huh? What I mean to say, this is nice. It's good. I had an interpreter all through a workshop I was doing there talking about reincarnation. And in one life, you live your life, you wear your body out, and you discard it like a pair of shoes. And the next life comes along, and you get a new pair of shoes. Makes sense. You know what my interpreter was interpreting the term pair of shoes as? Parachute. No wonder the people were looking at me like this. So I found out that what you say, you have to be very clear, and that I speak backwards in English. Not so bad. Everybody in my organization is now coming up with that phrase. That's not so bad. You like my book? Oh, it's not so bad. What you think, you create. So you have to move forward in thinking and say what it is you want. You have to stand up to people. And you have to say it from here. You want to be a compassionate person? Then you have to start now, not tomorrow. You don't need to take a course. You don't need to talk to somebody on the street. You don't need to call up a friend. Your heart chakra is opening up right now. This is why you're feeling sad. This is why you're feeling those feelings of fear. Not the thyroid or the throat chakra, the heart chakra. This is a time of compassion. This comes from my heart. It comes from the cosmos. It comes from the reality. If you look around, you will see now we have a feeling of heart. I take the positive side of those Israelis and Iranians who are on the Facebook saying we love each other, prior to the prime minister of their country or the leaders of their country wanting to bomb each other and blow each other out of existence. In the book, we predict that if that war happens, they're going to ignite the gas and the oil under the ground. They're going to ignite it. I had a dream that there was a U.S. base being built in Spain on the side of a mountain, and I understand that's now being done. This is so they can launch planes over and blow things up. I have said that President Obama will be assassinated, and he will. That would be a terrible day. Like Kennedy and like others, people that stand up and try to save the world, they take a risk. I take a risk. You take a risk. How many people can perceive the future? Take a risk. You can. This book tells you how and what to expect, how to survive, what to expect, and how to act, and to pay attention to the law of war. It's selling like hotcakes because it touches the nerves. Douglas wrote the book. All I did was lay down and go to sleep. Robert compiled research. These are intelligent men. I'd like to say they're younger than me, but Robert's older than me. Sorry, Robert. Robert's an author, broadcaster, retired attorney. Douglas has credentials to write. And we spent our whole life doing this. This time that is now at hand is a time for you to make a difference. You. With me, or on your own, or with a group. It talks about coming together in groups and the power of groups. You remember you've heard stories of the Quakers and the Shakers and all these people coming together, spiritual centers. It's because when you come together, you create a critical mass, a density. In those people who have come out to our events where I've laid hands on people and they fall over, it's not because I pushed them over, although some people have accused me of that. Because logically, how can that be? That energy can come out of your hand and knock somebody over. Can't be right. Can't believe that. But it takes a mass of people when you come together. Stephen has caught all kinds of people who have fallen over. We have seen miracles. Last Sunday, there was about 12 people at the center, 12 or 14, and our friend Frank, who's been coming all the time, reported after I put the energy in the back of his head that he could see the plastic spoon on the table I couldn't see out of that eye before that. Energy out of my hand into his head, energy from the divine through me. Am I exceptional? Am I different? Am I freaky? Am I something? No, I'm just like you. The energy working through me is the difference. The energy can work through you as well. You can perceive the future. You can lay hands on and help people. You can do touching and make them feel better, therapeutic touch. It doesn't have to be called Reiki or balancing or chakra. It doesn't have to be any name. Where it comes from is compassion. This is now a time of compassion. Satyasaya Baba, before he passed away, told us all about this love. The only difference between he as a master, as an avatar, and the rest of us was that he knew who he was. He was awake. Buddha said the same thing. He was awake. Christ said the same thing. He was awake. Waking up is why we're going through these difficulties. You know, when things are good, we don't really pay attention, do we?
No.
When we have pain, we wake up. The passing of my daughter's condition when she was younger, if you know my story, woke me up. It turned me on to finding out where was God, what's this, all this spiritual, metaphysical stuff, what is it? And I believe because I had evidence that Ross Peterson laid down, like Edgar Casey before him, and was able to tell me about my daughter's health when she was in an institution. Based on the strength of that reading, my very first psychic reading, by the way, we took Sherry out of the home, brought her home, and she stayed with us until she was 38. And she passed on. Time for her to go. And we knew a year in advance that she was going to leave. Her normal lifespan in a situation of that, as we were told by the medical people, was 12 years at the most. 8 to 12 was her lifespan. Well, boy, did she outshow them. 3 times longer. Nothing special, just information. Had we not put her in the home, she probably would have lasted longer. For the 4 years she was in the home, but the institution were devastating. She weighed 22 pounds going in at 2.5. She weighed 22 pounds coming out when she was 6.5. And they gave her phenobarbital and Bivol for all those years, trying to control her convulsions, which literally poisoned her. And Ross Peterson told me that in the reading. That was amazing. The information can be used specifically for health. It can be used specifically for all kinds of inventions. It can be used for any question you have. And any question you ask me tonight or you're thinking about right now, I have been asked more than once. Am I that? Should we pull the plug on the lady who 3 little kids? Are they brain dead or not? What's going to happen to Sophie? Said the father at 6 o'clock. She's going to expire by midnight. I like telling this story because it said, no, she's not going to die. If you go back south to giving her the morphine, she's going to live and wake up out of her coma the next day. And she did. This is when the individual use of an intuitive psychic mind can come to bear on specific points that are life-saving. You want to know the truth about the Illuminati. You want to know the truth about 9/11. You want to know who made money, who didn't make money. You want to know the truth about things. If you can perceive the future in a little bit, you can perceive it a lot. The book was written in a series, I don't know how many months, 6 months, Douglas, of readings with serious people, groups of people, asking serious questions. And Doug diluted it down and put it in this book, which is precise and concise of information, of questions that you might have in your mind tonight. But remember this, you can change the world. All you have to do is to be a more compassionate person. Wonder, what would you do if you were in that person's shoes? What would you do if you were facing this person in a circumstance or a situation? Because remember, the reaction is what causes the world to progress or to retard. You know, sometimes you just say a kind word to somebody, you change their whole life. How many times that happened to you? There you go. I was talking to a man today in the Deep South, and he was asking if he was going to get the loans for his business, if the house he was being kicked out of, or whatever that evicted, if he could stay another couple of months. And we discussed it. And at the end of the conversation, he then told me that he was loaning people, a few relatives close to him, money. And I said, wait a minute, you loaned your relative $150? We're talking a businessman now. And he said, yes. I said, no, you didn't. You give them the money and you forgive the loan. Because if you're asking people to forgive you, why not forgive somebody that owes you? This is one of the basic premises of the law of one. What you do first comes back, not the other way around. You can't go to the fireplace and say, give me heat, and then I'll give you wood. But in our society, not only we talk backwards, we sometimes think that way too. Yeah, give me some heat and I'll give you some wood. Yeah, you owe me money. Oh, please forgive me my loan. No. If you learn to be in harmony and you learn gratitude, the simple law of gratitude, you're on the right track. Your heart chakra is opening up. That's why you feel the pain. There are bad things happening around us all the time. You have to look for the good things that are happening to you. We shouldn't care who's in the White House. We should care who's in our house. We shouldn't care about the person down the street who's doing something bad or wrong. We should care what we're doing here today. The law of one. My son picked out some quotes. When we were a couple of weekends ago, Richard Surrett came over to do a television show at the mansion. And he mentioned Spiritual Center, a.k.a. the mansion. Looks like a mansion, doesn't it? Did you see it before the renovation or after? In the middle? Okay. Well, you should see it now. Group of 7, carpet. In fact, we even got a front door that locks. The producer of the show, when we did part of the interview, asked me, when did you find out about this law of one? Well, I'm supposed to be the Oracle of Atlantis. I guess I could say, 2,500 years ago. Or, sorry, 10,500 years ago. Thank you, Robert. But I didn't. I said, well, when I was a kid, I went to the Salvation Army. I was baptized in the United Church. I went and played floor hockey at the Baptist. I liked that one. And then I married, my mother and sisters were in the Anglican Church, and I married a Catholic. And then I have friends who are Sufis, Taoists, Hindu, Buddhist, and I've been in temples all over the world, and I think I've been just about every basilica in Spain and Poland, and the Madonna seems to watch over me, and I'm not Catholic, but everywhere I go I see the Black Madonna in Poland. I go to Mexico City with my friend Stephen here to see Lady Guadalupe. Then we get invited to the orphanage in Guadalajara, and you're like, I guess it's the same all over. I never found any difference in any religion ever, so I guess I found out then. And he said, no. This goes back to ancient Egypt. It goes beyond Atlantis. And then I knew what he was talking about. The law of one has always been here. Since Father Abraham, the Christian beliefs have gone in 1,000 different directions. Well, several dozen anyway. Anyway, Doug picked these quotes out from the book. I don't know if you heard me read them on the air the other night, but it goes back to the mystic bond of brotherhood makes all men one. Should have been all people one, right? He was, Thomas Carlyle. We can forgive him. It was 1832 that he said this. I celebrate myself and sing myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. Walt Whitman, 1855. The law of one has been around for a long time. The people who are aware of it practice it because they know it can change the world, one person at a time. How you doing, by the way? You're good. Thank you for your comments the other day. What befalls the earth befalls all the sons of the earth. This we know. The earth does not belong to man, humankind. Man belongs to the earth. All things are connected like the blood that unites us all. Man does not weave his web of life web of life. He is merely a strand of it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. This was by Chief Seattle, 1855. Now, how the heck did he know about the internet? Now think about it. The World Wide Web was something that scared the heck out of Nostradamus. He said there was a big web everybody was talking about. I had a dream vision when I was in Spain up in the Pyrenees, in which I saw the moon-like shape and there were lines going out and little collection points. And I was told to unite the different groups. They had to have a singleness of purpose. If that singleness of purpose is known to us, it's this. We have to take care of each other. Satya Sai Baba, 2 days after he passed away, came to me and told me in my dream, take care of one another. And that's it. You want to save yourself, you want to save the world, you want to find out more about this ancient religion, the law of one, you want to find your way to heaven, to the dimensions above, you want to be a better spiritual person, you want to change the world, take care of one another. When somebody puts their hand out on the street and they're right in front of you, put some coin in their hand. Don't pass them by. Because someday you'll have your hand up. And you'll ask the divine, please help. Thank you very much. I'll take your questions now. After I get my son Doug up here and Robert to back me up in brackets here, I don't know. You guys want to say something? Go ahead.
I'm having a lot of problems with sorry.
So everybody can.
I'll yell.
This is good.
Okay.
As long as you don't call me names, it's okay.
Okay, no, I'm not.
I know.
In moments where I've connected, I realize that this is just an illusion. Even this planet we live on, the life we're leading, it's just something that we've created to experience ourselves in a different way. So even the people that are so-called bad are not really bad. They're still the divine. I mean, it was very clear. To me, the law of one is that we are all from the same source. So I guess I have a problem with good and bad. I think it's just experiences that we're having.
Well, those are two pillars.
Right.
And you get to choose one way or the other way.
Right. But anytime I'm in judgment, I feel like I'm disconnected.
Well, you're not really judging.
Okay.
You're experiencing compassion or selfishness. And that's it.
Right.
You can choose. And when you see other people who are being selfish, or you see other people who are being compassionate, you have the opportunity to be connected to one or the other. It can't be both.
Right, but if you're connected, you're automatically in love and compassion. There's no way...
Not necessarily everyone.
No, but if you're in that space of connection...
You are connected. You are compassionate. You're on the path to saving the world. The idea, what you're trying to say is the philosophy is there's good inside of everyone. It's true.
The what?
There's good inside of everyone. It's true. But if you go down to Harlem in New York City at midnight, where I've been, out of gas, boy, it's a pretty fearful place to be. And there are people that will steal things from you, like that so-and-so that stole my passport and wallet in Spain. He was being so compassionate, he wanted to teach me how to find the consulate and the embassy and go through the rigmarole of getting a new passport. No, if the idea is there's good in everyone, it's true. The sun shines on us, the rain comes on us, but you have a choice who you are going to associate with. Right now, the world is falling apart. It's true. We are in for really bad times, but this renovation time will take us through to this time where we will have 1,000 years of peace, where the illusion of life, because everybody here has a different opinion and value of life. We all have different experiences. And it is an illusion. We are not the same. But to ourselves, we're in pain. When you have this heart chakra opening up and you can feel the pain of people on the other side of the world, it's the truth. So, trying not to judge, but to be discriminatory, or to discern who are you going to associate with. Because as long as we are 50+% on the compassionate side, the world will not flip on its axis. It's going to. I think we found out where Canada is going to be where, in equator or something. We had people trying to trick me. And they said, latitude and longitude here of this place, and latitude and longitude of that place. And if the world does this flip, what's the latitude, longitude, or location of this place? And it was exact. Went from here to here. Which meant that good old Canada is going to be in the tropics. We talk about who is going to run the world. Anybody guess what country will run the world in the future?
Israel.
Israel, China,
Russia.
It will not be the United States, that's for sure. Because I've seen the White House washed out, wiped out. I've seen people living in the White House and the toilet's all backed up and stuff all over the floor and all the bush is gone from around the outside. I'm not talking about the ex-president either. Completely devastated by tidal wave or tsunami.
Really?
So the White House will not be occupied. That you can bet money on. Italy is going to rule the world.
Oh my God.
I had an angel tell me that. I'll tell ye, it'll rule the world. Italy. So a safe place to be might be Mount Etna, Mount Vesuvius going off. Still going to be Italy. I'm going to tell you a secret. We are going to see terrible earthquakes. We are going to see the face of the world change. I saw Africa shrink. Because the ocean's coming up, the plain around Africa is going to be flooded. Not the plateau. The biggest fear we have is volcanic ash. It's going to go in the atmosphere. Remember what happened in Iceland not too long ago? It stopped everything. Air travel, all kinds of things happened. And prior to that, I was on Richard's show and I said that in the future, people were going to take the trains, not the planes. And he said, what's going to happen to the air industry? I said, I don't know. I was just told that people in the future will be taking the trains. And of course, when that happened in Iceland, people were taking the trains. When I was in Spain, I liked the train. 300 kilometers an hour. It's like you're sitting still and you look out there, it's not so bad. Speaking backwards again. The point is that Italy is going to rule the world. Commerce is going to go through Spain. We in the West will still be here. We in this part of the world are going to be safe. And we're going to be basking in the sun. And there'll be sharks apparently in Lake Erie. And there'll be salt water coming down the St. Lawrence, going through 2 of the 5 freshwater lakes on its way to the Mississippi. What is that going to do to fresh water? Think about it. This book not only talks about these horrendous things, it explains how they're going to happen. I'm not a geologist. I have no degree in earthology. It explains how these things are going to happen. No other prophet does that. They just say, blat.
Right.
This one explains why and how they're going to happen and gives some sort of a time frame when. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. Nobody has ever written a book like this before in such detail. Thanks to my son Douglas and how he organized it. Thanks to Robert who put my name out in a worldwide press release. First psychic in the world who sends a press release out about future predictions. That went around the world real fast. Remember, Robert? Psychic claims the world's not going to fall apart in 2012. That's how it went out. And it came back. Psychic says world's fall apart.
Oh, no.
Fall apart tomorrow. In Chinese, broken Chinese. All right? Okay. This book explains a lot. This is the first in a series. We sold out the first printing. You're welcome to buy a book tonight, $40. Yeah, and we're going to knock off $5 just to help you. If you buy 5 books, we'll give you the 6th one free. My Secrets of Life book, if you want to buy both of them, and I'm sure you all have this one by now, $15. It's $25. We'll give you a discount on that one. I hate to sound like such a huckster here selling books, but that's what I'm all about. I got to pay for these darn things. But they're educational. This one is like the Bible for spiritualism or spirituality, and this one is about the future. Buy them both, and you'll have, a couple hours worth of reading, because you won't be able to put this one down. That's not me telling you that. This is what people have told me. I cannot put it down. And you want to know something else? I'll confess this. When I read it, I read my own book. I go, that's amazing. Those who are not will find themselves suffering, but look for the ground to be shaking and quaking, even for underground eruptions and explosions to take place, due to the igniting of gaseous substances or fumes, you see. This particular region can expect to have severe and prolonged earthquake activity or shaking and quaking, and ash will fall, as will there be the possibility of atomic explosions or dirty bombs going off. And I just happen to open this up, and this is talking about Iran. There will be a rising up of Iran and Iraq. Explains what's happening blow by blow and the timing. I don't believe, as I did in 1978 or 9 when I moved to the country, and I expected these things to happen in the middle 80s. You remember 82 to 85, 86? That were pretty bad times. 24% interest rates. Real estate was just going south. People were bailing. They were saying to the bank, here's the keys, sayonara. It was really bad. We survived. When I talked about chaos coming into the world, economic chaos, it's here now. I talked about the price of gold going to $1,000 and it was $250. We talked about interest rates when they were 12% going to 30%, going to 24%. And then we talked about interest rates going down to 2 or 3%. On the way up, I had real estate people saying at 13%, are you crazy? Who will buy a house at 24% interest rates? I said, I don't know. Not me. And when people said, interest rates down to 2 or 3%, are you crazy? Who can afford to put their money in the banks at 2 or 3%? I don't know. Not me. It happened. 30% is what we're going to see interest rates at.
Again?
Right now there are people in places that are suppressing the inflationary rate. The inflation is huge. You think all that money they gave to the banks in the U.S. didn't cause around the world all the economic craziness? And what happened? Those bankers were playing with their depositors' money. And those brokerages were taking the shareholders' certificates and betting against them to make the price go down. This is chaos. And chaos is here now. But we're surviving. That's the secret. You're going to survive. Question. Doug, come on up here, son.
I have one.
Go ahead.
Okay. What do you think is price of silver and gold will be reached at?
Mucho.
It's because it's 38 now for silver and 69.
Mucho. I'm not even going to give you that confidential information unless you sign an agreement here to say you're going to give me 10%. It's going to be a lot more.
Will
But
they ever confiscate it like they did in the States for gold and silver? Like, will they ever recall it? Say,
if I understand?
Will the government confiscate gold and silver?
No. The people that you leave your certificates with will.
Oh, boy.
So you get your certificates back. Get your medal in your hand.
Yeah. I saw a future map of the world, and the new shoreline for Toronto, like when the tsunami happens and the water level raises here because we're so close to the lake, they showed the new waterfront at Highway number 7.
Wow.
Yeah, all those glass buildings you see are all going to be underwater. Do you have any kind of a timeline on something like that? How much?
Well, I haven't seen Highway 7. You know, Front Street is the old shoreline.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go up to Dundas or Gerrard Street, the old shoreline. You know when you go down Yonge Street, you go like this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what you're doing?
Mm-hmm.
You're retracing the old lake bottoms and the shorelines. St. Clair is the one that I've seen the most. I don't know about Highway 7. But I know it's going to be flooded up the Don Valley all the way up.
Yeah.
So timeline is when, if the St. Lawrence opens up this way, and the Niagara Escarpment shakes and quakes, and there is a shifting of just 117 feet. I think that's what the difference between the low and the top, the bottom and the top of this Niagara Falls. And that water is going to be rushing up the Don Valley, and we're going to see flooding. I remember when I worked at the Toronto Star. Toronto's my hometown, by the way. I worked at the Toronto Star in the 70s, 68 to 78, 77. December 7th, 1977 was the last day I officially worked at the Toronto Star. So talk about all that numerology stuff. There were pictures in it of Southern intuitive people like yourself who had seen the CN Tower and the buildings along Front Street underwater. Yes, it's a possibility. But like Barcelona, it'll be swelling up around the city. Like San Sebastian, people have had dreams where the water has been coming up from the ocean because San Sebastian is this way. The funny thing about Spain is when you're on the coast, everything is going downhill. That's how we found our way around Barcelona. They said if you're walking downhill, you're going to the ocean. If you're going uphill, you're going to the mountain. So you kind of get away around town that way. The same here. Question?
I have two. May I? Quickly?
Well, unless they gang up on you.
When there are major earth changes and we struggle to survive, what will happen to compassion?
This is the secret. You have it right there. The man asked, when we struggle to survive, what will happen to compassion? Do you know why they're repelling the long gun legislation right now? Not because they want to have farmers with guns or they want to go skeet shooting. They're preparing at the official levels to have long guns in the houses of people who are in the know. I have done readings for people in the military and in government. They use people like me all the time. What are they doing? They're preparing for riots in the streets. I have predicted this, if you've listened to me on the show. I have an 8-page article in a magazine in Spain talking about what's going on in Spain. The riots and the chaos, and everybody is saying, no, it couldn't happen, but it's happening. The salvation of Spain, like now, will be the compassion that we won't try to kill each other, we'll try to cooperate with each other, and we'll come together in groups. Right now, we have to come together in groups. Not to arm ourselves, not to run out to the country and put big fences up and have watchdogs and Doberman pincers. What we really need to have is compassion. Do you know why they're putting a seed bank in Norway with all seeds to store them there? Because they know that the fields are going to be covered with volcanic ash or they're going to be swamped with seawater that is full of salt. All you have to do is listen and look with your eyes. You know, the readings often say, see with your mind. It's out there. Good question. The law of one, those people who are compassionate will come together. And through all the trials and tribulations in the world, compassion has always stopped evil, has it not? It didn't matter whether you were in Croatia, or Germany, or Israel, or you were in South Africa, in Rhodesia, and other places in the Congo. Compassion always stopped evil. Evil is the absence of love. Those people who were selfish and they didn't care about murdering and killing their own people. Something is going on in Syria now. We look at that and we change it with compassion. And people have to come forward and stand up. They cannot look the other way. They have to take action. You know the best force in the world? Who is going to save the world? Any idea? What group of people are well qualified, able, and capable to save the world? Pardon?
The Italians.
The Italians.
Those on the fish.
Pizza saves the world. Meatballs and spaghetti saves the world. Who is going to save the world? Here is the ironic answer. The military. Yes, the military. Young, strong, ambitious men who want to get out there and slug sandbags and take rice bags and transport people from one place to the other. They're going to be on the seas rescuing people. They're going to be digging holes when people are in the ground. The military. And if you look at God's wisdom, while you're rescuing people, you can't be fighting with them. The book talks about that. It talks about the compassion. The second question. That was a good one.
Can you expand a little bit on intuition and maybe comment on remote viewing and how they, how similar or unsimilar they are?
Remote viewing, mind projection, and clairvoyance have been kind of wrapped up. Clairvoyance means you can see the future and clearly in time. You can go ahead. It's prophecy. Or it's prediction. Or it's premonition. Or it's precognitive. All the same as clairvoyance. Remote viewing means you go to a place and you see something. And you see that person. Here's a beautiful lady with a necklace around her neck, nice hair, sitting there saying, I want to buy 10 of your books and we can die. Mind projection means I can see where I'm going through the crowd all the way there. I can see my path. And that's the only difference. Remote viewing is being able to go to a place. The coordinates seem to require a name and an address. At your case, you always need the person's name and their location, correct? Because the finite mind needs to have, the mind doesn't work in the infinite, it works in the finite, and it needs a finite location. It needs to say here. You know, when people ask me, I was on a radio show at McGill University some time ago, and after I was talking about my books and things, two ladies came into the next show, and in that 1 minute between the sound going on, there's the music playing, we had to get kicked out of the sound booth, and they were coming in. The two ladies came in, and one of them came right over to me, never knew me, and said, can you tell me where my ring is? I lost it. And I said, it looks like it's got a silver setting and a blue stone in it. Is that what it looks like? Yes, where is it? And I said, it's on something red. Because my mind could see the red like a carpet. I could see the ring clearly. But where was the rest of the room? I don't know. So when you remote view, you go to a specific place and you can describe what you see. And you seem to need a trigger. I'm not a medium. I can talk to deceased people. There's a story on our website, DouglasJamesCottrell.com, about a testimonial where a woman said to her family, well, Grandma didn't give me the jewelry that she promised me. It's got to be in the house somewhere. And the house was cleaned out. Nobody found the jewelry. So, coming highly recommended, she came to see me and paid me $350, which was my old rate. I'm more expensive now, because I don't want to do these things. And she said, where did Grandma put the jewelry? So we said, best locate, which means send us to where Grandma is, who's dead. They gave us a name and the time that the woman expired. A place and a name. And thereafter we communicated with Grandma, who proceeded to say, of the whole house, now, just where do you think she would have put it? No, I want to say, just think. Under the mattress, that's not bad. But the house was already cleaned out. No furniture, nothing. They couldn't find it anywhere. Where would she have put it? Just think about it. I'm laying there in a meditative state, never met this woman before, I know nothing of her family, and they're sending me to talk to some dead person. Pretty amazing stuff when you think about it. We meet up with Grandma in the etheric, or in the dimensions above. Goes to your question about remote viewing. And we're now having a conversation with Grandma, who says, go in the front door, turn left, go down the stairs into the basement, go to the right, 2 pillars over, reach up into the ceiling and grab the jewelry. $350 this woman paid. I'm going home. I'm going to look right where you said. I said, well, good for you. I've worked on air disasters. I've told people about the Gander place with the soldiers. They crashed and they had the cyanide gas in their lungs. I guess we could find your jewelry. The woman was very clever. She got all the family together near the last days when the house was about to be sold to the new owner. Took the family in, and they all had champagne and a toasting Grandma. So after a couple of sips, she decided to let them in on the secret that you're going to go find the jewelry. Of course, they made the natural comments. Snooker, 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 you got ripped off. Are you crazy? Come with me. So as she told the story later, and she put it on the website, they walk down the stairs, I can just see this family, down the stairs they go, 2 pillars, turn right, go over, reach up, move the tile, puts her hand up, and pulls a plastic bag down with the jewelry.
Wow. Right on.
True story. Testimony on the website. Think about that. Grandma, who's deceased, obviously wanted to get back to her niece the jewelry she had promised. But because she had Alzheimer's, she forgot. So remote viewing in that sense was remote communication. Talking to a deceased entity. True story. Question? Yeah, we're here too, right?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
In your mentioning at the mansion, you were talking about quantum physics, or you had something about that. I just had a question about that. I mean, quantum physics being that if the very viewing of a reality can actually change it or influence it, right? So us being sort of all having a conducting energy to be able to view and actually shape this reality collectively. We're talking about future events and maybe possible different future timelines, right? So we see things that are different possibilities. Are you saying that by us being aware of these impending situations and our awakening to our ability to actually change it by viewing it in a more compassionate way?
Yes.
That we can actually, are we going to be able to, do you see humanity coming together to the point where we are able to actually get away from these future timelines and change the timeline?
What does the Hopi say?
That's the reason why the book's called a prophecy and not just here's the disaster that's about to unveil itself. The hope is that if enough people read the book and follow the advice of the book, that's exactly what will happen.
Come together.
Whether that will happen or not remains to be seen. What the book describes is a series of events that will unfold, assuming we continue along the course that we are continuing on. When I asked the questions, the answer always came back. Assuming things stay the way they are, this will happen, followed by B, C, and D. But it came up over and over and over again, which is why the book ended up being called The New Renaissance, is that everyone has the opportunity to collectively influence the future. One way or another, according to what came out in these readings, we will come together. Either we'll be forced to, because through adversity we naturally help one another. That's just our human nature. Or we can circumvent that if we are aware enough to, instead of waiting till, we're desperate, to make ourselves desperate now and prevent that from happening. So the question is, even I don't have the answer to, how far away are we before we pass the point of no return? And I think we're getting close to that. Yeah. But the hope in the book which was, based on these readings that my father gave, is that we can circumvent these, we can prevent them from happening if we wake up to the understanding that what we do has consequences. Everything we do, everything we think has consequences. The reason why the earth is changing is because we have a history of doing all these things against it. It's not just one day, poof, weather change. So yeah, the answer is yes.
There is I was looking through this to try to find the Hopi diagram. Remember that?
Yeah.
We addressed the Hopi prophecy that shows from this ancient tribe that there would be the possibility for mankind.
The question starts with
Okay, well, I'm not going to read it. This is on page 31. It has a drawing of the prophecy of their prophecy. What was on
The Hopi Blue Star.
Yes.
But they spoke about the Kachina, the Blue Star. That's weird. Yeah.
So it shows that there are two paths in the future for us, and there is hope that we change it, but we have to change our ways right now. And yes, I can affect matter when I lay hands on people. Matter of fact, there was a book at the book signing we did at the convention center downtown on Front Street. There was a lady came up in a wheelchair with two people behind her, and she got out of the chair, and I was selling the Secrets of Life book. This was at the convention center. We weren't there doing anything special, but we were laying hands on people as if you're sick, I'm there. I'm always on duty. The lady came up, put my hands on her head, and she fell over. And as she fell over, she said, "Something fell out of my head." It's true. She was looking for jewelry or something. She was patting her head while she was laying on the cement floor. And there happened to be 6 or 8 or 10 other people that we laid hands on, because when there's lots of people, there's lots of energy. And when I touch people, it has that effect. The energy goes through me, and out they go. And then you can see the alpha, the rapid eye movements, and things change. She was complaining that something fell out of her head, and everybody assured her, "No, you're okay." 2 people behind her one of them was a medical doctor, and came to a healing event down at the Days Inn and said the woman had an MRI just before she came up for that time when I touched her, and she had an MRI after, and the 3 tumors in her brain disappeared.
Wow.
And the only difference was that I touched her. There was nothing else changed in her life. And we have that recorded too as a testimonial. This happens rarely, but it happens. So this says that we have the ability to instantly change ourselves, and I'm just extrapolating from that experience that we can change physical matter. If we can make brain tumors disappear, and I can make arthritis disappear, and I say I'm remembered as the whole thing, not me, that's not so vain. Because the thing about the universe is every time I say this is the way a thing is, I get a little slap on the wrist and I say, not quite right, it's inaccurate. But the point is that we can change it right now. And the quantum physics shows us that the power of one, you can change right now the future. And I am changing the future right now by talking to you.
Yeah.
When you came in that door tonight, you had opinions and ideas. When you go out, teeny tiny little bit of difference may have occurred. I've changed the world a teeny tiny little bit. Not really me, but us. I hesitate when I say me, I'm giving it proper grammar, but please, it's not vanity. Yes, ma'am.
You talk about psychic abilities and, of course, the other dimensions, and some people are able to tap into that. Now, how often are those abilities deemed mental health issues? Can you elaborate on that?
Most of the time.
Well, I think that if you talk to a lot of my critics, they'll say I'm genuinely crazy. They'll talk in the Church of the Good Shepherd. Their founder in Sweden found that in psychiatric wards that people who were sick had profound spiritual experiences. Sometimes mental illness just removes the ego, or that part of us that says the logic and rational part, the rational mind, the logic and intellect, takes that away, and they see things. Sometimes mental illness is a creation of fantasy and the imagination. Imagination, I did a talk on a couple of weeks ago, and I put together that threshold of imagination being the most important. It's a thing that we're trained not to obey, not to listen when we're little. How can you see lights around? There's no lights. Smack. Too many smacks, and all of a sudden you don't see lights around people. No more auras. But the imagination is that part that allows you to bridge between the higher mind, or the contemplative mind, and the lower mind, or the rational mind. Makes up the personality, intellect, logic. The contemplative mind makes up all the creative forces and the spiritual abilities. That threshold, that imagination, allows you to bridge it. It allows you to see clairvoyantly. It allows you to remote view, because you start to conjure up a thought. Does anybody know where thoughts come from? Ever seen one?
No.
Do you know where they go? What happens when you put a train of thought together? We don't know. But in that mid-mind, in the imagination, or that part we call imagination, this is the part that starts the thought process and then starts the visionary aspects of being psychic. For people who are delusional and they have psychosis, it takes it into dementia, which it then becomes fear, anxiety, and all those things. However, I have known some pretty kooky people, and they've been able to see glimpses of the future. It's just that their illness causes their behavioral problems, and it causes different things to happen as if they're real. Alzheimer's people lose logic. There's no connection. There's no logic connection in their mind, and that's why they are the way they are. Memory becomes factual to them. There's no linear connection. The same with people who have some mental illness like schizophrenia or bipolar and other things. There's something affecting their thinking between the three minds. It's not logical. Does that answer your question? It's very difficult to go beyond the aspect of people that have mental illness, and when they're saying things like talking to deceased people, they could be, but we don't know. I always base it on evidence. When people say to me, just like this lady said before, I don't want to judge people. When people say to me, what's right and what's wrong, I say I should have turned my text off. What's right, what's wrong? I say, I don't know. What do you think? Because what's right or wrong for me may be something different to you. But I would rather hang out with good people than hang out with bad people. But I have to walk the street with both kinds of people. Yes, sir.
Just going back to Italy, I'd be interested to know why Italy. Because I'm just thinking economically.
Just a minute. Where's that part that says, don't kill a messenger?
Target's location.
Doug wrote a very good description on this ability, as did Robert. Come up here, Robert. Think about it. These two men put this book together. They are talented men. They are my friends.
The location. The readings say that after the world changes, the location of Italy in a world which has been damaged, technology has been damaged, things we take for granted have been damaged, Italy will be dead center for trade routes, which will bring it back to a certain prominence. That's the key.
There you go. Back to business again. Hey. Yes, sir.
When those earthquakes and tsunamis happen, how would the nuclear reactors around the world would they
really, really bad? I just read a report on the
radiation everywhere in the world.
Yeah, what's going to happen, and the book talks about the oceans going black. You know, that's been in the Bible and other predictions of the future. The oceans will be black because what's going on under the water that we can't see right now is enormous. There's a lot of activity, enormous activity. Off the southwest of Spain, in a place near Huelva, where old Atlantis is coming up. Robert can tell you more about the research there. There is an underground volcano, and there is new landmass being created by this spewing out of all this lava. When these things happen, the oil wells that are under the sea are going to keep pumping up like they did in the American South. They're going to keep keep pumping up the black oil. The nuclear reactors are going to be in huge trouble. Already now, in a letter I read just the other day, the people in Japan they have one or two reactors still going, and they think that they're going to shut those down, and never again will there be nuclear power generation by these reactors. That I would like to see. But I interviewed an executive in Sarnia one day many years ago, and did you know that the generation of power by nuclear means is 28 times cheaper than it is by any other method? That's why we have these nuclear reactors, because it's cheap. But your hydro bill doesn't get any cheaper.
No.
It's greed. And greed is selfishness. And the greed and selfishness take us to destruction. This is the sons of Big Apple.
So are they going to blow up? Like if they blow up, then the radiation's everywhere, right? There's no.
That's right. We're already suffering radiation in the other atmosphere. This is why you have to be in certain areas of the world to be safe. But above all that, the volcanic ash is the worst. Nobody's saying this. Well, I don't know, but me. I don't know anybody that's really saying watch out for the volcanic ash. Never mind the atmosphere contaminated with radiation. Never mind the groundwater contaminated with oil and salt water. I'm talking about volcanic ash because it stops everything. Transportation, things don't grow. It pollutes water. It does everything. So, as the book says, these two men spent a lot of time with about 12 or 14 other people on how to prepare for those eventualities. And it's here. It's in the book. Question? Yes, ma'am.
Yes. You know how you said President Obama will be assassinated?
I'm sure I can't agree.
I said, you said how President Obama will be assassinated.
Yes.
And then you said, and he will. But also, maybe your son said, but if enough people have compassion, things like this could change.
I would hope so. I would hope so. But I know at certain times there are certain things in prophecy that cannot be changed. Other people have seen this too.
Will that happen before the election or after?
Won't be long.
Not before.
No?
I got a question. Will the U.S. Federal Reserve this year print QE3, which will cause hyperinflation, like the death of the United States dollar?
Let me talk to my friend, investor and know-it-all in the stock market.
Doesn't know.
I think they've already, they're playing games beyond imagination. Recently there was, just forgot the name of the organization, but in the last week, a respected organization published a major report which you can actually download from the site MineWeb, M-I-N-E-W-E-B, which is a site largely trying to help all the different mining companies around the world who have been severely damaged by the machinations and the tricks that the big boys are playing. And this report, it's the first one I've seen that actually shows you the computer algorithms and the games they're playing to suppress different markets. The markets are very heavily controlled. You do not have to be a conspiracy nut, quote unquote, to be able to document this. They show that. But I think the answer to your question is a lot of the money that was sent to the Fed to help out the U.S., ostensibly, actually ended up in Europe in helping different federal bank accounts there to try and keep the whole European nation from falling apart. So the point I'm getting to, it doesn't often matter whether they admit that there is a QE3 or they don't. What's actually going on behind the scenes, they sterilize their bonds, they issue their own debt and buy it back, which is a great trick, by the way. Forget about MasterCard and Visa. Imagine if you could borrow $1,000 on a note and then walk the other side of the room, buy that note. You're now both borrower and lender. How is that even possible? In grade 3, grade 5, they tell you that can't happen, but the U.S. is doing that. The only reason U.S. bonds are in demand is because the Fed is buying its own debt. So the answer to your question is yes, there'll be some form of QE3. There is some form of QE3 now. They can't stop. They can't allow interest rates to rise because 1 or 2 more percentage points and the U.S. can't service its debt. So you can be assured they will try and do this as long as they can. It's the short answer.
And the other one is, will the hyperinflation be like the Weimar Republic or Zimbabwe or Argentina?
There'll be inflation in different areas. There's huge inflation now in some areas. You see gas going up, even though the statistics in the U.S. tell you that demand for gasoline is like at a 3-4 year low, yet the prices are at a 3-4 year high. Well, how's that possible? That's another example of interference with supply and demand. In fact, supply and demand, what they teach you in high school economics, college economics, doesn't work anymore because you've got these huge forces interfering in the market with public money. And they don't explain that to you in the traditional economic course.
So I want to say a couple of things because we're going to run out of time shortly. I have some postcards that Douglas has designed. Doug designed the cover. Fantastic job, don't you think? Fantastic. We're going to sell the book through here, and we have the specials. $5 discount on this one, and $15, another $10 discount on The Secrets of Life. And if you will, you want to give me your name and address, phone number, not address, phone number, email, preferably email. We'll keep in touch with you. If you're not already on our mailing list, we'll have this up here. So I'm not sure how much more time we have, but we'll try to go through some questions. Yes, ma'am.
With regards to the quantum physics question, I love that. If we're all, as I believe we are all able to change our future, and we all have healing abilities, and we all have the ability to have compassion. So if we get into a state of compassion and love and really the intent to heal the earth, could we not, in a meditative or relaxed contemplative state, just see ourselves holding the earth and sending healing and connecting in a human web of hearts around the world, of all people who are of like mind and focus?
The definitive answer on that is yes. There was a lady scientist, her name was McTaggart, who proved that at the smallest particles, atomically, that they would respond to thought. The Maharishi, Transcendental Meditation, they're out again showing that they can control areas and cities where they send love and the crime rate goes down. We've done it ourselves. We've tried those experiments. That's what I'm saying tonight. We are now, and Satya Sai Baba wrote this before his death, we are in an area in which we are in super sensitive psychic spirituality, if you will. And his explanation of that, which was marvelous, was that, when you go up to the attic when it's dark, you can't see so much, so you don't know what's up there. And this time we're in now is like somebody turned on the light and the attic is full of dust. So what are we looking at? All the bad stuff that's been there for millennia. We've got to clean that up first in order for the light and the truth and the compassion to come into our lives. That's exactly how you do it. But you do it with yourself first. When you walk out and you go down the street and you see some poor soul is there and they got their hand out and you pass them by, you've made a choice. Okay? When you make the right choice, you feel good about yourself. See, the thing inherently, as human beings, when we do good for somebody else, we feel good later. We do. So the point is that when we send out good thoughts to people, what frame of mind are we in? We're in a good frame of mind ourselves. We are, in fact, allowing that chakra to open up and feel the compassion. There is fear. I'm a realist. There are people dying right now. And there are people killing people right now. But there are also people having compassion, like we're doing right now. We love people. We tolerate them, and we have compassion for them, and we learn how to forgive them, the others. We are now a better person, because now we're on the spiritual path. We're in the light. There's no other way.
Does the earth have to do certain things to cleanse herself for our new world?
Absolutely right.
So the flip of its axis, I don't know if that's absolutely necessary, but other things, like are there certain things that she has to do in order to...
Absolutely right. My children, God bless them, they grew up big and strong, and now I have to take orders from them, like every parent. When they were little, I taught them things. I stood back and let them take a hammer and try to nail into a board, and they might have bent the nail. But I didn't say, that's wrong. I let them learn. I taught my sons how to use a saw. I taught them enough skills that they know how to do things, even though my two sons are in different worlds. I let them make mistakes. And this is what God is letting us do. Letting us find our way by making mistakes. But when we know it's a mistake, we learn. People who are afraid to make mistakes are afraid to learn. So making a mistake is one thing. Repeating the mistake is evil. You become a demon. Okay? Because we're angels and demons as we go through this life, are we not? Try to be an angel all the time. Be a demon on Saturday night, but be a good person the rest of the week. You'll be okay. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say something before we... Okay. When we were writing the book, we would gather a group of people together on Thursday nights. My father would go into a deep state of meditation, and basically we went around the room, and each person was given the opportunity to ask questions exactly like tonight's forum. And on one occasion, he was getting into some pretty heavy-duty stuff about these things that are being predicted. And a person just like you said, is there something that we can do? Is there a mantra? Is there a prayer? Is there something we can do to alleviate, prevent, or somehow get around these things from happening? And what happened was a prayer was dictated. And a methodology was given to perpetuate that prayer, to give it out to people. It basically, and I'm using it because I never know how to describe this process, to make the prayer get out there, to be meaningful, to actually affect change. And it's towards the back of the book, but I think it's one of the most profound parts of the book. It's one thing to just, like you and I do exactly the same thing. We just come up with what we feel, what we're moved to do. But the prayer or the mantra or whatever you want to call it that came out, it explained very clearly what we need to do and how we need to make that happen. And it's a beautiful, it's a good long prayer, a mantra. But I believe that if enough people get into the spirit of saying that and living it, that we can mitigate these problems. Well, that's the whole thing.
You'll have to find it yourself. But after you buy the book, of course. And I should tell you, people in Norway emailed us for permission to publish it in Norway. And I said, if you give me a copy, I can't read whatever language it was in Norway, but it was pretty amazing that it struck a chord. And other people in Spain asked for it to be interpreted different places. It's going around the world. So it's in here, and we'd like to have it. Yes, sir. Yes.
Question. Not too long ago, it's readily accepted that the world, Earth as itself, was flat. Right? That's historically known. Do you have any insight into the phenomena, into the hollow Earth theory?
Well, we discussed that years and years ago, and then you get into interdimensional things. Certainly there are caverns under the Earth. Robert did extensive research. Robert put me to the test like a zillion times. He was in on the tests at the some hotel, in which I was upstairs, and they had the medical guy had the two bags with the 12 brown envelopes of case study here and the 12 in there, and at random pulled them out, and he was my control. He's a lawyer. In other words, he was there to make sure everything was okay. And the benefactor had arranged this with a big-time medical doctor guy who in a hospital here in Toronto. And we were 100% correct with what went on with the 12 cases. To the point I was really happy to hear that. I was supposed to get a nice big report. We never heard of that before, because the man said,
what's happened over the years, and I was quite brutal with Doug, because I was skeptical. But all the doctors, and there are many medical doctors who I know of who have traveled a great distance to get consultations with Doug, as was the case with Casey. But to a man, the moment they leave the room, they don't want their name associated in any way with it. They just keep the information to themselves. In that case, the gentleman who came tried to throw a monkey wrench into it, because at the end of the session, he asked a question which he hadn't told anybody he would ask. He said, I'm doing an experiment with transplanted pancreases at the hospital, and we're using two protocols, one with fatty tissue, one without fatty tissue. And he asked Doug, when Doug was in a meditative state, which one would work. And Doug answered the one with the fatty tissue. And as he left the hotel room, the doctor, who's now working in a big hospital in Florida, said, I promise I will let you know if that turns out to be true. And 2 weeks where he called 2 weeks later and said, yeah, you were right, the one with the transport, the fatty tissue was the better protocol. But nobody ever comes back and says, you can use my knee.
The answer I was looking for was the man said he was 100% right. I can't validate this. Nobody's 100% right. We're talking an industry that's 20% right in their diagnosis rate and they get awards. Answer your question, I don't believe there's a hollow earth, but I believe there is gateways to dimensions, and I believe that there has been places into the earth, great caverns, and between North America and Europe there are caverns that people can travel through. The hollow earth theory comes from that. A couple more questions to make? You were going to...
I was just going to say a couple more questions.
You're the boss. This is your place. We are very grateful to have this place tonight. Thank you very much. Well, anybody else? Well, no, wait a second. I'm trying to get the people who haven't asked the question first. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be open to exploring working with the member of the hierarchy present on Earth and advanced masters?
We didn't quite hear you, ma'am. Could you yell at us?
Yeah. Would you be willing to explore the idea of working with a member of the hierarchy here on the planet, an advanced master?
I thought he was, but sure. Absolutely. We have, when you go over the Skyway Bridge on the way to Niagara Falls, you're pretty high up. I love that bridge. When I go out for a drive at night, just to go for a drive, I go up and over that bridge maybe 3 or 4 times. I'm sure I'm communicating with a hierarchy on top of it. Anyway, for directions to go to Hamilton, the many mansions, you go across the bridge, you take the first right turn, make another right turn, make another right turn, and you're on the beach. And it's 180 Beach Boulevard. Yes, I would please to work with anybody if I can help. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
When did you say that these earth changes would occur?
Say again?
Volcanoes, when did you say that these earth changes are going to be occurring?
These are going to happen in my lifetime, absolutely guaranteed. And I'm 62. They're going to happen closer to 62 than 72.
Uh-oh. Wow.
That's right.
I think everybody, if we've all been looking at things going on in the world, we've seen a lot of people waking up to one degree or another, at least looking at the world themselves in a different way. And we've heard a lot of research, even some of the ancient prophecies about Earth, we're traveling through the galactic center or photon belt and all of this, and how as we're getting closer, we're receiving more galactic light, energy, whatever you want to call it, and that it might be in some way helping to assist the wake-up that is needed to help save this world. And I just wanted to know, number one, what your thought was on that, and number two, is there any information about intervention on our behalf?
I'm intervening right now. I'm intervening right now.
Outside.
God is my witness. I've devoted my whole life since I was 24 to what I'm doing tonight. Thanks to my daughter Sherry Ann, who came into the world and paid a huge personal sacrifice and going through a difficult time. The first 6 years of her life, it was living death. It was like being incarcerated. I have devoted myself to God, and I asked, and I'm writing a new book called, it's the Ultimate Prayer Book. We're in the process of doing that now, and I try to make a deal with God. Never make a deal with God. God doesn't forget. I got down on my hands and knees and I prayed for wisdom. I prayed for strength. I prayed for tolerance. How many people have you done that?
I have.
Of course you have. You want to know how you get strength? A weightlifter, when he goes to the gym and gets strength, he starts lifting weights, right? So when you ask for spiritual strength, you meet all kinds of horrendous tests to make you strong. Difficulty after difficulty after difficulty. And as long as you have the intestinal spiritual fortitude, you get stronger. Wisdom? Well, that's another case. You want to be wise? You will make every mistake in the book to get wise. Wisdom is knowledge plus experience. Not one or the other, both. And you make mistakes until you become wise. So you have a constant life of difficulty, trying to be strong with circumstances. Then you're put in circumstances where you have to make decisions and you make mistakes. But what about tolerance? Oh yeah, tolerance. You meet every stupid person in the world to help you get tolerance. Never pray. This is wisdom talking. And I'm not trying to be demeaning when I say stupid people. Never pray for tolerance. That's bad. Never pray for wisdom. That's not so bad. Never pray for strength. That's really, really bad. Pray for opportunities.
Okay.
And people to bring you opportunity. And because we're not really so smart, pray for the recognition of opportunities and add, the sooner the better. Okay. Now, we're just about at the end of the evening. We're going to sell the books up here. I'm going to hand out these lovely postcards that Douglas has printed up. Please pass them around to your friends. We will, if you buy 5 books, we'll give you 6 months free. We have discounted the book $5 off the cover price for the New Renaissance, and we're going to take $10 off the cover price for The Secrets of Life. And we'll pay the shipping. If you pick it up tonight. I'll sign it for free. Any last questions before we...
How much more expensive than $350 is for your personal consultation? $550?
I do a office consultation for $150 pop. I help everybody. And at Many Mansions Spiritual Center, we have meditation on Tuesdays for free. We have Wednesday nights. We just started sort of a healing Reiki kind of thing with Reverend Fred. That's free. We have Thursday nights for development classes where I talk something like this on a different subject. Next week it's how to be a dowsing and doing some map things. That's $20 for the evening. On Sunday we have a spiritual service. We have a talk we're now doing it at 1 o'clock starting soon. And then we'll have a spiritual healing event after. And I travel quite a bit, so I'm only going to be at the center for a little bit. I'm off to Poland in October, maybe Spain in May, and I might be in Argentina on the weekend. So things are happening for me from being called all over the world. It's been my privilege to talk to you tonight. I am very grateful that you're here. I know that we're like-minded people. I can sense the compassion in the room here tonight. And I hope that my son Douglas and our friend Robert, wherever he went to, there he is back, sitting down in the back. Robert likes to be in the back. Talented man. Robert has been my life friend for 35 years. My son has been my friend for, maybe all of his life, I hope. 22. When we were in, I was going to say Sevilla, but it wasn't. When we were in Granada, 2 ladies were talking. This was near the end of our stay. Doug had been there for 3 weeks or so, a month maybe. And 2 ladies were talking about us in front of us. And they were trying to figure out how old Douglas was. They didn't know how old I was. But I'm an old man. So they're saying 30 maybe. They're speaking in Spanish. Doug's catching on to the Spanish lingo pretty quick. Me, not so bad. So they're saying maybe 30, something, something. And he says in perfect Spanish, 42. And they went. And I said, and I caught on what was going on because I understand Spanish poquito, or poco. That means really, poquito is really small, poco is small. And I said, no, he's my brother. So, last question. Yes, sir.
Yeah, do you have any real estate in Italy? Don't feel compassion here.
I think Mañana in Italy, when I was there once back in 1979 in Como and Milano. I was thinking about that. Yeah, not so bad. Thank you.
And on the trade route.
Thanks for coming out, everybody.
Yes.